41. Since that day, Sophia hasn't seen Daniel for about a week. Daniel had returned to his erratic schedule. In short, no matter how hard Sophia tried, Daniel always managed to avoid her when she went out or came home. Sophia had something on her mind, and the sound of her harmonica became more mournful day by day. The teacher said, "Stop, stop, stop, Sophia. If you keep playing, everyone in the music room will be kicked out." Sophia put down her harmonica upon hearing this, feeling somewhat melancholy. The teacher said, "Sophia, playing music requires emotional investment. I see your heart isn't in it right now. If you have something on your mind, I suggest you deal with it first." Just like that, for the first time ever, the model student Sophia Wilson was criticized. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Sophia wandered around the busy commercial street until her calves began to ache slightly, and then she sat down on a bench next to the fountain in the square. The sun was shining brightly, and the crowds before her kept changing. Violin music drifted in from somewhere, fountain water splashed irregularly on the back of her neck, and pigeons occasionally landed at her feet. Everyone was living actively, and it seemed that Sophia was the only one reflecting negatively. There was a young boy skateboarding in the empty square. He jumped down from a high staircase but unfortunately landed on a banana peel, then slid a long way and fell flat on his face. The people passing by burst into laughter, and Sophia also laughed. After laughing, she found that she had opened WhatsApp and clicked on Daniel's dialog box. Sophia looked at the line of ha 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 she had typed, confused for a long time. After a while, she deleted them word by word. Then she made a phone call and whispered, "Bro, I'm done." 42. Joseph Wilson had just gotten off the plane when he received a call from Sophia. Sophia's father, David Wilson, was a piece of work and had specially sent him, who stood on the same side as Sophia, to inspect the enemy situation. He also specifically instructed him that if necessary, he must unconditionally fuel the whatever was between Daniel and Sophia. Joseph was struggling all the way, and just when he felt he was in a dilemma, Sophia called him. Although she only said a few words, "I'm finished," Joseph, who had watched her grow up, quickly understood what she meant. Joseph sighed and said, "I'm in the city now. Where do you live? Send me the address." 43. When Sophia received the call from Lucas Walker, she was writing a letter of apology under the active supervision of her cousin. She spent the whole night trying to come up with the 3 words "I'm sorry," but she still ended up writing it with some crossouts and scribbles. Lucas Walker, "Sis, what are you doing?" When her cousin saw her pick up the phone, he silently asked, "Daniel White?" Sophia shook her head. She held her phone and said, "I'm at home, just getting ready for bed." "Don't sleep." Lucas sounded very noisy on the other end. He said loudly, "Man, Daniel is drunk. We wanted to ask you to come and take him home, but it was too late. Daniel felt sorry for you, so he asked his secretary to take him home. I guess they will be here soon, so I called to tell you. I don't know what's wrong with Daniel today. He can't drink much. It's not us who made him drink. Sis, you will feel sorry for him when you see him later, but please don't take your anger out on us." Sophia sniffled and said, "Got it." She knew that Daniel didn't feel sorry for her. He just didn't want to see her. Sophia hung up the phone, rubbed her nose, and picked up her pen again. Joseph stood not far away and watched, saying nothing, but with a slightly thoughtful look on his face. 44. As Lucas said, about 10 minutes later, a car sounded outside the villa. Sophia glanced at the clock and found it was already past 1 in the morning. She put on her slippers and ran down from the study on the second floor to open the door, but was stunned for a moment when she saw the situation outside. Daniel's brows were slightly furrowed, his eyes closed, and a damp, flushed complexion made him look quite drunk. He was being supported by a beautiful woman, while the driver, holding Daniel's coat, bowed stiffly when he saw her. Ms. Wilson. The beautiful woman also smiled. "Hello, Ms. Wilson, I'm Grace Adams, Mr. White's assistant. I was responsible for bringing Mr. White home. Now that my mission is complete, it's time for us to leave," she said. "Okay, now Mr. White is in your hands. Remember to give him water and aspirin, otherwise he will have a headache tomorrow." Sophia may be a bit slow sometimes, but she's not stupid. She could certainly hear the subtle aggression in Grace's words, and it was clear she didn't try to hide it. Sophia was stunned for a moment before she came to her senses. She said, "Thank you for your hard work," and took over supporting Daniel. 45. Daniel had a headache. He drank a lot today, and there was always a vague shadow in his mind. That shadow was always laughing heartlessly, and it made his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys ache. Suddenly, a warm towel gently wiped his face. Daniel tilted his head uncomfortably and subconsciously grasped the wrist. He frowned and opened his heavy eyelids. In the blurry light, he seemed to see the swaying shadow again. Daniel's voice was hoarse, and he unconsciously murmured something, as if mixed with infinite tenderness. "Sophia?" Someone whispered in his ear, "I'm here." Daniel felt an uncomfortable tingling in his head. He shook his head and glanced at the door of his room inadvertently. There was a man in a white shirt leaning against the door. He couldn't see his face clearly, but he seemed to call out, "Sophia." The pent-up discomfort mixed with a bit of grievance burst out. Daniel shook off the wrist he was holding. He put his elbow over his eyes, and the impatience in his tone reached its peak, but his voice was cold. "I told you not to bring them home." Sophia knew he had misunderstood and quickly explained, "No, he's my cousin." Daniel rolled over. "Get out." As he turned over, Sophia's gaze fell on his shoulder, where a berry-colored lip print was located. Sophia closed her eyes, and Grace's smile flashed before her eyes, blocking her last bit of perseverance. Joseph watched from a distance until Sophia knelt beside the bed for a long time without moving, and then he walked over. He saw Sophia's red eyes and nose and was a little surprised. "Sophia, are you crying?" Sophia looked up at him, her eyes half covered, and her voice was as soft as a sigh. "Bro, I feel a little uncomfortable." 46. Joseph sighed, patted Sophia's head, and said, "Going home, Sophia?" 47. Sophia has been missing for a month. Daniel also moved back to the White family's old house. Mr. White, Michael, and Olivia had no idea what was going on. At first, they would ask, "Where is Sophia?" But as Daniel kept saying, "I don't know," they gradually realized something. Mr. White tended to his bird and breathed a sigh of relief. "Well, let the young people handle their own affairs." He said so, but privately, he left messages and sent DMs to Sophia on Twitter countless times, but all of them fell on deaf ears, and there was no response. Including Lucas and Zoe, it seems everyone is curious about where Sophia is. Only Daniel doesn't seem to care. It was as if he had never met her and naturally never remembered her. 48. Near the end of the year, the city had several heavy snowfalls, and the entire city was enveloped in the cold, plunging into an endless winter. In the office on the top floor of the White Group building, the heater was humming, and a cup of coffee that had long gone cold sat on the coffee table. When Daniel woke up from a nap, it was already completely dark. He pinched the bridge of his nose and sat up from the sofa, feeling so drowsy he had lost track of time. WhatsApp ding-dong sounded. Lucas sent a message. "Man, I was having a party at your villa a few days ago, and I seem to have forgotten my engagement ring. Can you help me find it? I will come to your company to pick it up tomorrow." Daniel, yeah. In just 2 months, Lucas quickly completed the 3 stages of acquaintance, love, and engagement. He came from behind, and Daniel, who had mocked him for being lonely, was repaid with kindness and is now still alone. Wait, Lucas is engaged. Daniel is alone. Text seems slightly off here, but translating as is. So, time is really an unpredictable thing. Some people get together, but some people separate. 49. Daniel hasn't been back to the villa for a long time, since Sophia left. Because Lucas borrowed the villa for parties every now and then, the villa was very clean, and there was not a speck of dust. Daniel walked around the first floor hall and found Lucas's ring in the gap between the sofas. He turned to leave, but somehow went up to the second floor. He didn't know what he was doing, just going from room to room. Finally, he came to the study. The bookshelves in the study are filled with Sophia's favorite comics, cheesy romance novels, and even some art books that she treasured. She didn't take any of this with her, including her clothes and daily necessities. The only thing missing was the yo-yo with Daniel's name engraved on it. 50. On the bookshelf was a collection of poetry, the only possession Daniel had in this study. He pulled it out and opened it, and unexpectedly saw the words Sophia had written on the title page at some point. "Fucking Sundra." Daniel closed his eyes. He closed the book and was about to put it back on the shelf when a thin page of paper fell out of it. Daniel bent down and picked it up. It was a letter of apology,